What a wonderful.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to Real. I have another solo podcast today. This is like the most solo episodes I've done like ever. But I've gotten a lot of not only questions, but just every once in a while, I feel like I'm lacking in like the body image content. And obviously, that's like the most important thing to me. And I also want to periodically do these episodes about body image for anyone that is new to following me. And so we're going to get into it today. I've asked you guys to ask me questions on Instagram. I also did like a little TikTok video prefacing kind of like my story around body image. And so today we're going to talk through kind of like my journey and mainly talk about binge and restrict cycles and why I suffered for so long and didn't get better, and how I actually went through the process of getting better. I've also gotten just so many other questions, but I feel like the binge and restrict like scenario or like what I went through was the most significant thing that I had gone through when it came to body image, and was the thing that definitely like affected me the most and was the thing that was the hardest to get over. If you've gone through something like that, or if you're going through something like that, I know how lonely it can feel. It literally feels like there's no one else that could possibly understand what I'm going through. I'm here to tell you that I might not have experienced the exact same thing that you have, but I promise I understand the struggle. I understand the frustration. I understand wanting to just be done with everything because you just have nothing left in you to give. And I just know what it's like to feel like your whole world is crashing in because you don't like your body. And like that is the highest thing. And if you don't have a good body, you don't know how you can possibly go on. And I know like it sounds crazy maybe to some people that don't struggle with that, but it's a very real thing that people that struggle with body image issues understand and know. That feeling of like, I don't want to live anymore, or at least this is what I kind of went through. I don't want to live anymore if I can't have my ideal body or my perfect body or eat in a clean way or whatever it may be. Before I really get into it today, I do want to give a trigger warning. We're going to be talking about disordered eating. We're going to be talking about eating disorders, weight loss, weight gain, and things like that. So if you are in active recovery, I highly suggest watching a different video because I don't want to trigger anyone or make anyone feel like they're kind of like shifting back into old ways or saying anything that might upset anyone. So just wanted to give that little preface, listen or watch at your own risk. But let's get into it. I'm first going to just start out by telling my story and kind of a short version of what I went through leading up to starting to binge. I grew up in a household that had a lot of focus on body image. My parents really liked to work out. My mom always made commentary. I grew up with like a so-called almond mom. She always like made just like a lot of commentary surrounding her body and what she looked like, weight loss, eating a certain way, and just kind of talking about her food, talking about what the next meal would be. And slowly but surely, as I got older, and you subconsciously absorb those things, but once I was old enough to kind of know what was going on, I thought like that was the right way to be. And if I had cravings or if I gained weight, like all those things were like the devil. Like all those things were really bad. And so you kind of start to like think that you're a bad person when you eat a certain thing or when you crave a certain thing. And it just becomes like a very slippery slope. But when I was in 8th grade, that was when I hit puberty for the first time. And I think a lot of people go through a similar scenario of like hitting puberty and like having curves for the first time, having boobs for the first time, having cravings because you get your period, and all of a sudden you have all these hormones that are unfamiliar to you. And there's just a lot going on in the woman's body when you're at that time in your life. And obviously we don't think about that when we're going through it. We're just going through it, and we're taught as women, and I think we're programmed as women to kind of like ignore symptoms that we're feeling and like almost not be in touch with our body, just kind of gaslight ourselves into just like keeping it going and like not thinking about it and doing our like sports and going to school. And just there's so many distractions in life that we're kind of taught to ignore all of those things that are going on in our bodies. So I, for the first time in my life, kind of like felt all of these things going on with my body. And especially when it came to like getting curves, like getting a butt, getting boobs, I was very self-conscious. And the weight gain that came with going through puberty, not that it was so dramatic for me at all, but it was just something I noticed very quickly because there was such an emphasis in my household on gaining weight, or like maybe I was increased appetite, I was craving more or hungry, or like all those things made me feel like I was like in danger of gaining weight, which in my household was a very bad thing. So I went to my mom and I said, like, basically I was probably crying and I was like, what can I do to like prevent weight gain? Which hindsight, you would think your mom would have been like, you don't like, you're perfect the way you are. But our parents in their generation were not raised like that. Like, they don't know any better. And I know you're like, oh, they're adults, they would know better. A lot of moms and grandmas, like if you think of your mother or your grandmother, I know this isn't like super common, but I think for a lot of people, at least that I know, there's some sort of diet culture ingrained in their brains. And so they don't know that like what they're saying or what they're doing is wrong because it's the only way they've ever been taught and the only thing they've ever known. They're not educated enough to know certain things to say. So when I first came to my mom, she was very adamant on like, let me teach you how to eat healthier. And it wasn't, I don't think we ever like posed it as a diet. It was just like, let me teach you how to eat healthier. Like I used to eat like chicken salad sandwiches every day. And I think she would be like, teach me like how to have like veggies with lunch and like maybe do a wrap instead of a sandwich, like slowly, like, or maybe like not eat mac and cheese. Like she would kind of teach me like what foods in her mind, because it was coming from her own mind, like what in her mind was good versus bad. So I never had any like formal nutrition training. It was just like basically what my mom's disorder was, she just transferred to me because she was basically saying, oh, mac and cheese is bad. Like veggies are good. Like there was very specific rules, and a lot of them, honestly, when you think about it, don't make sense because when you eat lunch, like you want to have like, instead, if she had just taught me like you should have a protein, a carb, and a fat, like this is why it's so important to like teach nutrition and like gentle nutrition at a young age, because when you're going through something like that, when you're taught the wrong way, you immediately go into disorder mode. So as you can imagine, like as she's teaching me kind of her rules around food and transferring those onto me, I'm then becoming more and more aware and more strict as the years go on. And almost I started to demonize other people. So I'd look at other people then and be like, oh, they're eating that. Like that's bad. Like they don't realize that's bad. I know everything about health. Like I'm like morally better than you. And that is like really how disorders happen. And if you've seen a lot of the talks around certain influencers on TikTok and online, they think they are morally better and they think they are right and they think the other people are bad people or are wrong because of the way they're eating. That is like a key disordered person thing, or even just in society, that's kind of how we're taught. So to me, like I see right through it and I just know it because I've been there, done that. As the years went on, I still had all of these mindsets, but obviously, as you can imagine, years of like healthy eating / restriction, it subconsciously just gets worse and worse and worse. So in high school, I felt like, oh, I need to be thinner. Like every time I would have a reminder that I needed to be thinner and that I was gaining weight, which is normal. Like when you're growing up, you're going to gain weight. When you're going from middle school to high school to college, you are becoming more of a woman. Like you cannot control the fact that most women are on a steady kind of upward through middle school, high school, and sometimes college and post-college. We're constantly always, until you're like 24, 25, that's when you kind of start to level out. And even so, as women with our hormones, again, not to like keep beating this into the ground, we have a lot going on in our bodies, and every few years our hormones are changing. And so your eating habits are going to change, your cravings are going to change, your body weight is going to change. There's so much that's going on that we don't put into consideration. So I wasn't filtering that. Like I wasn't thinking about that. When I was gaining weight, I was basically just being like, oh, you're a shit person. And like, how dare you let yourself get this way, which is crazy, but it's a very valid thing that all of us felt, or at least a lot of us probably felt. And so I, again, restricted more. I took all the things that my mom said and I doubled down and I tripled down, I quadrupled down. And soon enough, I was just bringing carrots to lunch for the whole day at school and like plain rice cakes. And I was going on Tumblr and seeing how little calories I could eat per day and like what other people were doing and how I could make myself feel fuller and what are the hacks, what are the tricks. Slowly it was turning into like a serious kind of disorder or like at least severe disordered eating. But the most severe disordered eating part came in when I was restricting so bad that I would come home and I started binging. Now, I don't remember exactly when my first binge was, and I'm saying it in quotes because binging is really different for everyone. Some people might consider what I did just like overeating, but the binge to me is the feeling of a loss of control, and it was emotional, and it was like I was blacking out while I was doing it. And so that's why to me I classify it as a binge. It doesn't matter in comparison to someone else how much I was eating. It's the fact that it was the act of it happening that was a binge to me. I would come home and like it would always have to be in secret. So I would wait till my mom went upstairs or I would wait till she left to pick up my sister from school, and I would go in the fridge and like every food that was off limits, it would start with like, I'm just going to have one chip and then stop. And then I'm just going to have like one of something else and then stop. But then slowly it became, once I ate a certain amount, then I was done for like that week or that day. Like your diet just got canceled. Your healthy eating just got canceled. So you might as well just say, fuck it, throw it down the drain and just go crazy. And then I would keep doing that with the mindset of like, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and diet starts tomorrow. Or like the rest of this week, I'm like done. Monday, it starts Monday. I'm going to be so strict. I'm going to be so good in quotes. And like, I'm done this time. Like that's how it always was. It was always like, diet starts tomorrow. There's a term that this is actually called. It's called Last Supper eating. And it means basically what it sounds like. You're eating with knowing that next day or that next week, this is like the last time you're going to do this. But the last time is never really the last time, is it? It's always like the last time and then the last time again and then the last time again. So for me, I went through that cycle of it always being Last Supper. And also I want to talk about the binge and restrict cycle because this is legitimately what I went through, and it is probably the hardest cycle to break. So the binge cycle, if you are on the video version, I'm just holding it up right here. But basically, it's you start your diet or you start your restriction. So let's say that was me going to school on Monday, having a perfect day, just having my little clean, because in quotes, I wanted to eat clean foods. And then I would feel emotional when I got home. I would feel overwhelmed. I would feel tired. And that's when you start to binge, or you just feel overwhelmed because there's all this food that you want and you're so like, oh my God, I just don't know what to do with myself anymore. So you binge. Then you feel so guilty, so ashamed. What's wrong with me? I have no discipline. What is wrong with me? Everyone else in the world has discipline. Why don't I have discipline? And that is like the worst feeling of all, that post binge, post overeating guilt. That's what really gets you. That is the most low of low I would ever feel. I would just feel so defeated and like I was such a bad person, and like, why can't I do anything right? It would just bleed over into every other aspect of my life. Like I would just feel like I just suck and I'm just not worthy of anything. And that's just such a, like, I look back and I'm like, I was such a good kid. I was doing the best that I could. And like, that doesn't reflect you as a person. It reflects society. It reflects what you were taught. You need love. That girl needed a hug. She needed to be told that she was beautiful, and to be taught balance, and to be taught like what intuitive eating looks like and what just balance looks like. And that girl needed nutrition. That girl needed some fucking nutrition. She needed some rice. She would have felt a lot better if she just had some good rice. Like, I just needed something, you know? So it makes me feel sad for that person back then. And again, that just went on for a long time until a point where it wasn't just about me feeling like I had no self-control. It came to a point of me feeling like, oh, I actually can't be normal around food quite literally at all, because I wake up in the morning and I think about food and I go about my day and all I think about is waiting until I can have that next meal, waiting until I can have that next like apple, whatever it is. Like my whole day just revolves and around food and what I'm eating and what my body looks like and how much I weigh, and getting on the scale would make or break my day. And everything in my life just revolved around that. And so it became like, oh, you don't have enough discipline and you need to have more discipline, to like, oh, I literally can't be normal. I can't have any normal thoughts. I can't have a normal day. I can't go to a friend's birthday party and just eat a piece of cake and like it be a thing of the past, because then I'll eat a bite of cake, eat a piece of cake, go to a thing and obsess over it, or be at a party and not eat anything because everyone knows I'm really ultra healthy and I don't eat any of that stuff, and then go home and binge because I just watched everyone eat a bunch of food and I'm starving and my blood sugar's low and I'm craving all the things that I haven't had in years. And for a while, I was like, there's something seriously wrong with me. Like, I have a binge eating disorder. Like, I'm addicted to food because I can't stop thinking about food. I just need to cut out sugar. I just need to cut out carbs because your body, I'm addicted to them. I would so demonize those things where I literally was like obsessed with the fact that like America is like hurting us, that like processed food, like you're just addicted to sugar. You're addicted to these things. Like, you just have to cut it out and then you'll be better. And then you're not going to crave them anymore. And yes, it is true that our country, we do have a lot of like processed food. It's not the healthiest, blah, blah, blah. But also everything in moderation. It's not going to kill you by having a little bit of it. And I think that's where things got lost in translation. Like, I became so all or nothing. The second my mom taught me that day in 8th grade about health, I took on, especially if you are a perfectionist, you take this on a lot, I feel like, because I definitely have perfectionist tendencies. I have OCD tendencies, or I do have OCD. I think that's why I was such an easy target to a disorder, because it matched right up with everything that my mind craved, the restriction and the cycle and the sabotage. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's just my brain craved that. And so again, getting back to, sorry, I tangented as usual, but I think there was just a certain point where I was really sick of just like, I couldn't just go to a fucking family party and just like eat and chit chat and then just go home and like go to bed and like have dessert and feel like I'm satisfied. Like, that was a foreign feeling to me. Like, I constantly walked around just feeling like unsatisfied and like I constantly wanted to binge or eat in secret. And eventually I got so sick of that feeling and I just wanted to off myself. And I'm not saying that to be like dramatic or like sarcastic. I legitimately, when I went through those really dark times, I really like didn't want to live anymore. That was like the first time in my life I really felt like, oh, like I don't want to like live because I can't live like this anymore. And it's not worth it if I can't just like be thin and be happy. And even like past the thinness, it was more just like, why can't I be fucking normal? And it just made me not want to, I had no will. Like, I was just like, this is not how life should be or feel. So eventually something came over me where I was like, I can't live like this for the rest of my life. So how can I just get back to square one and be normal? Because even if I'm a little bit heavier than I was, at least I'll be able to like have a life, because right now my life is not fun or worth living. And I guess I did research. I would be online a lot and there wasn't a lot of resources, but I found this book called Intuitive Eating. I also was in therapy too, and my therapist just would be like, you're not really binging. Like, how much are you really eating? Like, you're not binging. And I was like, you don't understand what I'm going through. So I found this book, Intuitive Eating, and for the first time I read it. And I finally was like, oh, this is why I'm restricting and then binging and then restricting again. And this is why I don't actually have a binge eating disorder. I don't actually have a food addiction. My body is literally just so deprived constantly. And I just literally, my mind and my body, it's so connected. Literally, my body and mind doesn't know when my next meal is coming because it's so used to that restriction every single day, day in and day out for years. Like, imagine your body is just so out of whack. Like, and then every time you see food, your body wants to binge on it because you're so used to putting a little bit in and then it being like, I want more. I want more. I want to stuff as much as I can in and store it because I don't know when you're going to feed me next. That is the reason why I was binging, because my body was trying to protect me and help me. Your body will always try to protect you and help you. And that's what was happening. It was really hard then figuring out what I needed to do or finding out what I needed to do in order to stop the cycle. What I needed to do was, I think, number one of intuitive eating, the number one thing, like the rule, because there's like 10 rules or whatever, is reject the diet mentality. And I think honestly, that's like one of the hardest parts. Or I guess it's like number one is like make peace with food. Number two, reject the diet mentality. Whatever it is, I highly recommend you guys read it. I really had trouble coming to terms with the fact that like you have to do this without the underlying thought that you're going to lose weight or the underlying hope that you're going to lose weight. Because us disordered girlies, we go into intuitive eating and we're like, but is this going to help us lose weight because we're going to stop binging so that we're going to lose weight? And it's like you literally have to take that factor and take your body image factor and toss it out the window. And so I think the first thing that really helped me, so like bottom line was I needed to just allow myself to eat what I wanted to eat for the first time in a while. And it's really scary because it's a loss of control. You just feel like, well, I can't just let myself eat whatever I want because I literally have no control around food. That's kind of the point. The point is to allow yourself to have no control, because eventually when you keep eating and keep reintroducing those foods over and over again, eventually it's not such a commodity anymore. Like back then I wouldn't be able to keep most things in the house or around me because I know I would just binge on them. People that say that have probably an unhealthy relationship with food, because when you have a truly healthy relationship with food, you should be able to keep things in your house and know that you can just have one or have two and be okay with stopping. So if you ever have those feelings of like, no, I literally can't stop, it's probably because there's still more work that needs to be done surrounding your relationship with food. Being able to just have a handful of M&Ms, being able to eat 2 cookies and be done. Sometimes also for dinner, just overeating a little bit, but then stopping and then not thinking about it anymore, letting that just be a thing of the past, not feeling that guilt after. So there's so many different factors and so many different things that are part of the healing process and working through those issues. But I'm here to tell you it is possible. And I also want to tell you that when you allow yourself all of those foods, I promise you, don't give it a timeline. Don't say like, will it be a month? Will it be 2 months? It takes a while. It took me years, and then I'm still like, it takes a long time to heal, especially when I grew up like my whole life feeling like that. Like I still sometimes feel weird, like when I get home by myself, I need to like go for some, like, I don't know. I feel like I still get tendencies or like urges, but then you remember like all of a sudden your body doesn't want to do it anymore because you don't have that crazy craving anymore. You know that you're allowed to have that whenever you want. So it's like, oh, you go to do it because it's a habit, and then you're like, wait, I don't even want it. I don't even want to do that. And you can't expect, I don't want to tell you this and then expect to feel this way right away, because it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen after a week, after a month. Everyone is different, but reintroducing those foods that you've been restricting for so long will help you in the long run when it comes to your relationship with food. Because the more you give yourself exposure to it, the less cool the food is. Like, let's say your binge food or your like guilty pleasure in quotes is Oreos. Start exposing yourself to Oreos, and don't do every food at once. Choose to reintroduce things slowly over time. Maybe like you've been afraid of eating bread. Maybe just have one sandwich this week, just one sandwich at lunch. The rest of the days you can have your normal things, but just try it once. And then next week, maybe you try a sandwich, and then at the end of the night, you add in a dessert that you haven't eaten in a long time. Just try things here and there that will give up that control over time. I kind of did it all together. I was like, well, but it's still, even though I tried to do it all together, I still felt like, because I wasn't comfortable eating around other people, it still took me a really long time. But I think the more open you are with the people around you about what you're going through also is super helpful, because then they can understand what is kind of going on. And I think once you open up to one person, it's a lot easier to heal. Like, if you're keeping this whole thing a secret from people, I think it will take you 20 times as long to heal from the issues you're going through. The other thing I want to get into is how making peace with your body helps you make peace with food and helps you not binge. When I felt bad about my body image, I would binge worse. I would restrict and binge worse. My relationship with food was way more fucked up. In the morning, when I would weigh myself, I would always notice that I would sabotage if I didn't like the number on the scale. And if I did like the number on the scale, then I would restrict more because I would be happy. So basically, in hindsight, long story short, the number on the scale directly affected how I would eat that day. How I looked in the mirror, or how my, whatever would fit me, directly affected how I would eat that day and my mood that day. So if that's you, get off the scale, stop looking in the mirror for so long, and wear comfy items that make you feel secure. Like, take a break from trying to squeeze into certain things. Throw out your old jeans that you have laying around that you've been waiting to squeeze into for so long until you hit your, in quotes, goal weight. Get rid of that stuff. And for once, put on a pair of leggings, put on an oversized sweater, or whatever you need to do. Put on a pair of looser shorts and a t-shirt, but something you still feel good in and that makes you feel happy. You don't need to express yourself through how small of clothes you can wear. You can express yourself through the colors of your outfit or the feeling that your outfit has. Maybe you wear something really soft. There's so many different ways that you can still express yourself through fashion and feel good without trying to squeeze into old clothes. Because that's not the definition of what it is to look good or to feel good. To feel good and to look good is to feel comfortable and to feel happy and to feel confident, or even just relaxed. The more relaxed you are, the more confident you're going to present to the world. If you're anxious, if you're uncomfortable, it's going to show. So in the morning when you wake up and just throughout the day, try to really minimize your thoughts about your body and stepping into the mirror. When I did that in the beginning, it really tremendously helped the way that I was around food, because it lessened my urge to binge when my thoughts and my feelings weren't so constantly surrounding body image. And I will say those are just the first 2 steps. This is something that if you're struggling with, I really suggest going to a non-diet dietitian or an intuitive eating therapist or intuitive eating psychologist, and opening up as well, because it can be so helpful. But I just wanted to share kind of my story and then how I kickstarted that. And again, it was years of reintroducing foods. I mean, still to this day, there are things that I've continued to reintroduce, or for the first time didn't feel guilt around. In college, I tried so many foods for the first time. Being away from home really, really helped me. I felt like I wasn't in a judgment zone. But being surrounded by people that are constantly judging around food is really hard. So if you feel like you're in college or you're at home and you're constantly being judged or watched around when it comes to what you're eating, you either need to distance yourself from that person or have a discussion with that person, or not eat around that person. In college, I wouldn't eat around two of my roommates or have meals with two of my roommates because of the restrictions that they were doing and like how they would talk about food and how disordered they were. Like, and that's not like, and I'm not saying this to shit on them or like whatever. It's just like we're all going through our own journey at different times. And at one point, I was probably that in high school to other friends. I might have been triggering someone. Unfortunately, that's kind of just the way it goes until you figure out when you're into the point of recovery. And that's why you can never let other people affect your recovery or determine your recovery or determine the way that you're eating or the way that you look at yourself. Because your whole life, you can't go through life eliminating triggers. You just can't. You have to learn to face the trigger head on or learn how to deal with the trigger. And so for me, like when it came to my mom or my family, I knew I was going to be around my family for a long time, for as long as I would come home. And, you know, I was very close with my family too. I love my family. That was why I needed to have a sit down discussion with my mom, and not just on one occasion, on several occasions. Still to this day, I give her reminders sometimes when she says something that I don't like. It's a lifelong thing, but it improves over time when you can be gentle and not place blame. Like I never would go to my mom and be like, it's your fault that I'm like this. But I would be like, look, the way that you say this, even though it's not your intention, it affects me and it causes me to feel X, Y, and Z. And that's a good way to approach it. Or just to send articles or help or show articles that support the way that you feel and give examples of how talking about food and talking about body image can affect your child. It's the same thing with friends. When you're surrounded by roommates or friends that constantly have a dialogue around body image, around exercise, around what their next meal is going to be and planning everything out, you either need to have a discussion with them and say, look, it shouldn't be that hard if they're a good friend and they're understanding. Being like, look, I just want to talk to you. And it can never be from an attacking way, or it can never come at a time that's like in a weird time. Like you have to do it when things are relaxed, things are calm, and you feel in your gut like it's an open discussion kind of moment. You need to say like, look, I've been really struggling around body image and food. And when you say X, Y, and Z, even though I know it's not your intention to hurt me because you're my friend and you care about me, it's making me feel this way. And so you can totally talk about that stuff. Like you're on your own journey and your own path. But is it okay if you just try to really limit when you talking about that stuff around me because it makes me feel like this? That's the easiest way you can really approach it. If you feel like you really can't approach a friend like that and they won't listen or you don't feel comfortable or whatever it is, try to just distance yourself a little bit, because if their lifestyle doesn't align with yours, it might not be the best fit for a friendship if they're not willing to see that you're struggling and that you're uncomfortable. Or even if they're just so in deep, you can be there for them. Like if they're in deep in a disorder, you can be there for them and make sure they're getting the help that they need from outside sources, but then also keep enough of a distance where you're not being affected by it. Because at the end of the day, you can help your friends, but you have to put your mask on before you put someone else's mask on the plane. You know what I mean? Like if you're not taking care of you, how are you ever going to be there for other people? So you only got you in this life. You need to be selfish in this instance and make sure that you are not being affected by what is going on around you. If you're going through a binge and restrict cycle, I just want to end this part of the podcast by saying, like, I know how alone you feel. Again, like I know how lonely it is. If you're going through restriction, if you're going through disordered eating, if you're going through just an unhealthy relationship with food or just struggling around your body image, it is the loneliest feeling in the world. And I get that. It is so easy to look around and think everyone else looks so good and I look like this. I'm the odd one out. You're not the odd one out. You just feel like you are. And it's also, again, our society puts people that are thin on a pedestal. That's not accurate they're not better people than you. That's not accurate. Society does that because they want to take down women. They want to tear down women. They want to teach women that you're only good for just your looks and your body. When in reality, we are so much more than that. Think of all these men that are like overweight, that are millionaire, billionaires, and a lot of the time they have beautiful wives or whatever. It's because men aren't taught that their body is their value. They're taught that what they can bring to the table, which is another stress, and I will give them that, but it's what they can do, what they can provide, how successful they are. That's their mind, their brain, their drive. Those are things that are like actually of worth. And also like how they are as a person, like who they are as a person. Why as women does it always feel like the main spotlight is always on our body or our looks? And then it's just like an added benefit if like we're a good person. But even then, like not even really. We need to start to realize that society is just fucking with us because they don't want us to be the equivalent of what men are. Women are fucking powerful. They're trying to limit the power that we can get. And trust me, we're a lot smarter, and also we are so empathetic, and that is something that men, it just doesn't come as naturally. The empathy that we have is something that is so valuable in business and in life, and no one can take that away from us. So take your knowledge, take your empathy, take the love that you have to give, all of those things, and realize everything I just listed has nothing to do with your body or what you look like. And it's okay to want to feel beautiful. It's okay to want to look your best and to feel sexy and to feel beautiful. But that's not the full picture. Because at the end of the day, beauty is an added benefit. But also, have you ever met a person that is beautiful, but they're a really shit person and they're kind of ugly because of it? Because that's happened before. I've met plenty of beautiful people that I look at and I'm like, you're an ugly person because they're not a good person. Beauty always shines from within. I, as a woman, especially when I meet a person and they are kind and smiley and happy and open, that to me is like the most beautiful thing you can be. And they're hardworking and they're generous. Like think of all of the other things that you can be. Those are real amazing traits. And also, I know people always kind of say this and it might sound like a cliche, but when we're all gone one day, no one is saying RIP, she was 100 pounds. No one's saying that. She hit her goal weight. I know this is really morbid, but like picture a funeral. No one's ever commented on beauty or weight. It's like they loved their family so much. They did everything for me. We laughed so much. We had this and that joke. Like that is what life is about. I know it's easy to get caught up in all the other shit, but at the end of the day and at the end of your life, what is the point of all of this? The point is to love the people that are in your life, to take care of the people that are in your life, to smile, to laugh, to have beautiful experiences, and to be there for others, and to be a good fucking human. That to me is the point of life. What else is there? So what if you're beautiful? So what if you're thin? We all can think of people online that are thin, but we would not want to be them. And I know that I'm not trying to also make someone feel bad for being thin, because all bodies are beautiful. All bodies are different. But we all know that obviously in society, people that are in larger bodies can be demonized. And that's why I'm really honing in on that and kind of reiterating that over and over, because thin, unfortunately, is the ideal. There's something actually called the thin ideal, and it's something that in society women are always chasing. So I just want to remind you guys that like everybody is beautiful, and I genuinely mean that from the bottom of my heart. But I don't want people in certain bodies to feel like they're being left out of that, because they're not. Okay, I want to get into some questions from you guys because there is a lot of questions and I'm very excited. It's not exciting because it shows me that a lot of you guys are also struggling with this, but I'm excited because I feel like this is the perfect spot for us to chat about it. Just moved to New York and started my first real job. Congratulations and welcome. Hard to have a workout and eating routine, and I have guilt around it. I would say sometimes you got to embrace the mess for a little while and do little things. Like in the beginning, when I first moved to the city, it was very hard to find a routine. And honestly, even if it was like just making my bed in the morning and then going to work, whatever you do for work, like if you're going to an office, like it's really hard. You got to forgive yourself if you're not ready to like get into the, when people do like the 5:30 to 9 before my 9 to 5 or whatever, to me that's like or my 5 to 9 before my 9 to 5. That's crazy and that's unsustainable for most people, but I give people props if they can do that. I'm just saying for most people it's unrealistic and unsustainable. And so I want you to give yourself grace during this time. You eventually your body's going to crave those workouts and you're going to find time and places to fit that in. Just get your routine under your belt first for the first couple months. You might feel like you're missing your workouts a little, but I want you to take that pressure off and realize you have a lot on your plate now. You just moved to a new city. You just started a new job. Try to just get into that routine each day. If you can maybe pack yourself a lunch or even just make a healthier, balanced choice for lunch. Going to get a really nice grain bowl. Maybe you find a really good, like nutritious, amazing lunch place near your office. Try to like find somewhere that you can get a reliable, good meal. That's something that you can do to set a goal. As I said before, you can make your bed in the morning. Maybe you can bring like some protein to the office to make sure maybe you have a protein shake in the afternoon, making sure you're getting enough protein in your diet so you're feeling full throughout the day. There are just little things that you can add in to help yourself without feeling panicked that like I didn't get my workouts in and my eating routine is messed up. Also, there are these amazing meal prep delivery services. Now, if you can't do that, I totally understand because sometimes we're balling on a budget and we don't want to spend the money, but there are a lot of actually really sustainable and good ones that are perfect for budget and cost less than getting delivery. And if you don't have time to go to the grocery store, maybe that is the most sustainable option. So you kind of have to just weigh the pros and cons. Maybe on a Sunday, do some research, look into it and see what makes the most sense for you. But a meal delivery service is really great because even like you can use those as your lunches and your dinners, or maybe you just you have your dinners for the week. So you come home and you know that you have that healthy dinner in your fridge. Like those are all things that you can do that feel kind of lazy in quotes, but they're actually setting you up for success because you're getting in your meals throughout the day. You're making sure that you have your time at work and you're dedicated in the office when you need to be. And then you can come home and not stress because it's right there and you can get to sleep on time. Or maybe that meal, just having it and making it allows you to actually do a late night workout, go to the gym maybe at 8:00. So you're gonna get into the habit and get into the routine of things naturally. It's going to happen. But please, I'm begging you, give yourself grace in the beginning because no one has a perfect routine off the bat. It honestly takes years for a lot of people to come up with a really good, sustainable routine. And I hope that helps a little bit. Tips on growing out of clothes during recovery. This is tough because you could feel like you're on top of the world during recovery, like you have a really big win. And then all of a sudden you go to put on an outfit and you break down because it doesn't fit you anymore. And you just feel like, what the fuck is happening? And I'm disgusting all of a sudden. Because recovery sometimes takes you away from reality. You're so focused on just getting your certain food groups in that it allows you to like take the thought out of food and the emotional attachment out of food. But then when you go to put on your clothes, all the emotions come flowing back. And I think a lot of the time that is what happens. That's what's happened to me at least. I need you to take that moment, feel your fucking feels. Like if you're feeling upset, if you're feeling down on yourself, like let yourself cry it out. Let yourself feel those emotions. Do not bury them. Do not feel bad for feeling bad. Cry it out. Take your time. And then I want you to stand up and chuck those clothes out the door. Those clothes belonged to you in the past. That was a past version of you. That was not the best version of you. That past version of you was, we love her. We're proud of her. But that no longer reflects the values that you hold. And so those clothes don't belong to you anymore. Your new clothes belong to a person that loves themselves and that is taking care of themselves and that wants the best for themselves and is working towards the best version of themselves. So I use those kind of attachments to put towards my clothes. Not, my old clothes were a thinner me. My new clothes are a bigger me. No. Put emotional attachments to the clothes. Like, those old clothes were a girl that really needed help. Throw those out. That girl, not the same girl as this bitch. This bitch is a strong ass bitch. I mean, that bitch was a strong ass bitch, but this bitch, she's made progress. We are proud of her. She's giving. She's the moment. No. Yeah, like, you have to think of it in that way. These clothes are a representation of a new me and a better me. And so I know it's hard. I know it's hard to grow out of it, but chuck them out. You're never meant to fit into those again. Those are the old you. Trying not to let body image affect you when seeing someone new. I know this can be tough firsthand. I was single for 7 years. And even when I did have a boyfriend, like way, way, way back when, it still affected me. And so naturally, dating around, you think about it. You think, am I not good enough? But the person you're good enough for looks at you and would never change a thing about you. And I can happily confirm that now. Anyone that is worried about your body image or a few pounds or a little like fat on your stomach that is like normal, covering your ovaries, that's not your person. Because your person, no matter what. Also, life is a roller coaster. You are not going to be the same weight that you met. Like, you're going to meet a guy and you think in 30 years you're going to be the same weight. You think when you're pregnant you're going to look like you did at your prime. No. You need someone that is going to stick by you through whatever you go through. And that's why you want to find someone that's a good person and sticks with you, like what people say, what they say when you get married, in sickness and in health. Because whether it's about your body image or whether it's about you being sick one day, knock on wood, whatever it is, you want that person to love you no matter what and be there for you no matter what and cherish you no matter what. So if you already feel like this person is not going to accept you, like, I honestly not that long ago was dating a guy that I had to think about this stuff with. If you're thinking about it and you're feeling insecure around them, about what you eat or what you look like or how you look, not your person. Our bodies will subconsciously tell us. Like, if you're feeling anxious around that person, surrounding food, surrounding like feeling like self-conscious in your body, that's probably not your person, because your person will make you feel the most confident and the most accepted. So just know that going into dating. How do you deal with body dysmorphia and feeling bigger than you actually are? I think when it comes to body dysmorphia, the focus again has to be taken off of body, because whether it's that or just general insecurity, it's always like us in the mirror being obsessed. And body dysmorphia naturally gets worse the longer you look at yourself. The longer you look at yourself in the mirror, the bigger you feel. It's just, I've been through it. I know it. It's how it is. So you need to challenge yourself to get out of the mirror. If you need to, set a timer for like 10 seconds, and that is the max amount of time you're allowed to look in the mirror in the morning. And then throughout the day, if you see mirrors, walk by them. Literally force yourself to walk by it and not look at yourself. Like, if you're in the mall, I don't know why I always get triggered by mall mirrors. Like, when I'm walking around in like a department store and there are like those 4-way mirrors, for some reason, every time I've ever looked in front of one, I have felt like I am the most disgusting ogre in the entire world. And it's never actually how I look. I don't know why. So a challenge for me has always been like, not stopping in those mall mirrors. The same challenge can go in any store, but also in your own home or anywhere else. Just walking by, taking some of that like pressure off of looking at yourself and expecting to see a certain way. You can look at yourself all day long. It's not going to change what you look like. You still got to go about life. So stop looking so much so that you can focus on life. Focus on your job, focus on your people, focus on what you're meant to focus on, you know? And then you can have those couple seconds to make sure your pants and your shirt are on right and your hair doesn't look crazy. But outside of that, we don't need to obsess. So we're going to look in the mirror, take a minute, and we're going to dart out the door. Best ways to give yourself some love when you're having negative body image days, going through it. I think when I'm having a negative body image day, I really allow myself to sit in that I'm upset about my body kind of feeling. Like, I'm never going to force myself to be like, you're amazing, you're so beautiful. Like, yes, that's true. Like, we are all beautiful, but me just like telling myself I'm beautiful is like really not helping me. Cause like at the end of the day, when I'm having a good day, I'm having a good day. I'm like, you're hot, like you're amazing. Like, but when I'm having a bad day, I'm like, you're disgusting. Like, there's such a big difference. So it's like that you're amazing thing, your beautiful thing is not always gonna work. For me, it's more like, okay, I'm having a bad body image day. Fine. I'm not going to wear the outfit that makes me feel like super skimpy and like showing off everything. I'm going to wear an outfit that maybe is like my comfort outfit. Like maybe I'm just going to put on a really good like white tank top that makes me feel good, or like a black long sleeve and like black leggings. Like I'm not having a bad body image day. I just like love this outfit that I'm wearing right now. For audio people, I'm literally just wearing all black. But sometimes if that makes you feel better, that's okay. Not every day is going to be the day that you feel like flex in that body. And remember, as I've been saying this whole time, like it's not the most important thing about you, so it's okay. You don't need to dress to the nines and show off your figure because that's not the point of life. So if you're feeling shit, let yourself feel shit. It's okay. Don't let it affect your eating habits. Don't let it affect your mood. That's where we try to change it. So it's like the shift comes when you're able to be like, okay, I feel like shit about myself. Let's put on this outfit that makes me feel comfortable. You're going to take that attitude. You're going to leave it at home as much as you can. You're going to try to avoid mirrors throughout the day, like avoid really like any like conversations that revolve around like looking at yourself. If you need to talk to someone, you can totally talk to someone. Call your like trusted person that like can talk you up and make you feel better. You're allowed to vent, but go about your day and distract yourself and do the other things that you need to do. So I'm kind of anti being like gaslighting yourself into making yourself feel good. Yes, that works sometimes. I'm all about doing like self-love affirmations. Like at night, I always do like, I am confident, I am beautiful, I am loved, I'm intelligent. Like I do all these different affirmations. Those are great. But I'm not into like gaslighting yourself into being like, you're beautiful, because if you're just not feeling that way, you're just not feeling that way. Like, it's like your favorite person can tell you you're beautiful, but if you don't feel it, you don't feel it. So allow yourself to sulk. Allow yourself to feel your feels and do your affirmations at night. And I promise you, tomorrow probably will not be as bad as today was. I'm going to do one more question. Eating. I have so much trouble with self-control and just giving in and eating all the, in quotes, bad foods all the time. This again goes back to kind of what we talked about in the first place. You need to get into your mind that there is really, truly no such thing as a good or bad food. Food isn't a person. Food is it's like an object. It's like a thing that you eat. Food can't be good. You wouldn't call food nice or kind or mean. That's because you can't call food like those kinds of things. It's not people. It's not a person. So you need to take those labels kind of out of your mind and realize that there's foods of different nutritional values, but there's room in your life for all of them. And you're allowed to have everything that you want. Just like you wouldn't eat a gazillion carrots, you probably wouldn't eat a gazillion cookies, because too much of anything is just not fun. It's not fun anymore. So that's something that obviously, like, I'm not out here freeballing life, and I don't want anyone to think that that's like the mindset that I have, because too much or too little of anything is not good. But I think the first thing you need to do is realize that it's not about your self-control. It's not about your discipline. It's about the fact that you are restricting a certain group of foods or a certain like kind of area of foods. Like, for example, dessert foods, pizza. Those things to you might be labeled bad foods. I don't know what your like bad foods are. You need to give up those labels and realize that it has nothing to do with your self-control. It has everything to do with the fact that you're telling yourself you can't have it, so you want it 10 times more. Stop telling yourself you can't have it. Tell yourself that you're allowed to eat whatever you want to eat whenever you want to eat it. Do that for a couple months. See how you feel. But I'm telling you, off the bat, you might feel a little out of control. You might eat a little bit more than you would have liked. That's okay. Be a little overstuffed. Realize you probably don't like that feeling. And you'll get them next time. Trust me, your body will level out the way it's supposed to. Your mind will level out the way it's supposed to. You need to learn to trust your body though, and trust that when the time is right, it's going to help you do all the things you need to do when it comes to your eating. But just remember, you did nothing wrong. It has nothing to do with your discipline or your self-control. It has everything to do with the fact that your body thinks you can't have it, your mind thinks you can't have it, so you want it 10 times more. So try to work on that mindset and come back in a couple of months and let me know how you're doing. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. This obviously is a topic that means the absolute world to me. And so being able to talk to you guys, open up with you guys, and just be honest about all the things is like the best feeling for me. And I definitely am happy to do more episodes about this. I also have another episode with a non-diet dietitian from like a way back. Her name is Paige, so you can check her out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm sending you guys all the love if you are going through it right now. And just know you're never alone, always light at the end of the tunnel. And I am here for you through it all, even if it's across the screen. If you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give this a 5-star rating and review. Please give this podcast a 5-star rating and review because it helps me so much so that I can keep making podcasts like this. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Real with CW and on TikTok at Real with Carly Weinstein. And I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
What a wonderful world.